What seems to be the problem with the Tala is that obviously because it does not have a current exemption notice, it should not be undertaking the business that it's undertaking. Because it is about to lose its sponsor, it is obviously not ideal for it to be onboarding new customers. It needs to be able to figure out how to deal with the current customer base. But the problem here, of course, is that whenever people hear that a license has been suspended for a banking institution, the assumption is that you're no longer going to be able to access your funds. So a lot of people would legitimately panic when they hear this, which is why it's important for the bank to keep explaining exactly what the state of affairs is.
Lawyers for the Turkish-based East Asian Consortium EAC have told the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein that if South African courts do not hear its matter against the network operator MTN, then it will remain unresolved. The consortium, which contested for a public tender with MTN in Iran, says the appellant would have no recourse despite the serious allegations against MTN. EAC is suing the mobile giant for 74 billion rand for allegedly bribing Iranian officials to get a tender for a mobile operating license in that country. The SCA is expected to make a decision on whether or not the matter falls within its jurisdiction. And the Comrades Marathon Association says that cyberbullying, harassment and defamation are the reasons for some of its board members' resignations. Last week, 4 board members, including the association's chairperson and the vice chairperson, resigned. This happened a week after another board member was banned for life after being cleared of racism allegations. Here's the association's interim chair, Jeff Minar.
The CMA believes that everyone has the right to feel safe and respected online. To address this pressing issue, we are considering taking legal action against the perpetrators of these acts. We would like to ensure that some of the perpetrators of cyberbullying, harassment and defamation are held accountable and urge everyone to join us in this fight against such heinous behavior.
The top story this hour, Eskom's Group Chief Executive will this afternoon brief the media on the state of the company's business and its summer outlook. The Full Circle is up next. For SAfm News, Kimudupi Makhalemele.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Emile Sasa Paulo, Ianda Sasa, Alisana, Londa Ninguye, Logo Handela, Roma, we are Pina, Logo Hamtanga, Songi Minnesota, Logo Handela, Roma, we are Pina, Logo Hamtanga, Songi Minnesota, kwakho anisanawo omnamandla ingathemawo uzondamkele uyikhomba indlela ukuze ndihambe lokulandelawe noma wena uyafika lokuhamba ngawe zonke imini sawubomela lokulandelawe noma wena uyafika lokuhamba ngawe zonke imini Tell noma wena uyaphila lokuhamba ngawe sonke imini sobomi bami lokulandela wena noma wena uyaphila lokuhamba ngawe sonke imini sobomi bami lokulandela wena noma wena uyaphila lokuhamba ngawe sonke imini sobomi bami sobomi bami sobomi bami sobomi bami
It is the incomparably talented Bongiziwe Mabandla coming through with Ndogulandela, and that is how we kick off the show on this fine Monday afternoon. I hope that you've had a restful weekend and you geared up for all the possibilities that lie ahead for the remainder of the week. We have got, quite the conversation-filled show for you today, and we kick off because it is still Women's Month, and we are still exploring conversations that impact and pertain to women. We are kicking off the show with a conversation around how do we go about amplifying women's voices and the role that male allies in leadership can have in doing exactly this. Also, there is an opportunity here for you this Monday. There's a new bursary that aims to inspire new generations of literary talent, and we'll find out more from the folks concerned with that. Coming up on the other side of 1 o'clock, we take a look at the biggest challenges that are facing local entrepreneurs, the local entrepreneurship sector. We'll have that conversation on the other side of 2, as well as, looking at the key barriers to girls' education in developing worlds and where there is a lack of access to basic menstrual health products. We'll find out more from the folks involved with that initiative on the other side of 2. Our lines are open on 086 000 2032 if you'd like to give us a call, or 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through a WhatsApp or voice note, you're more than welcome to do so. Let's take a quick pause.
SA Women Struggles Journal. #Women's Month. Celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development, SAfm celebrates the power, resilience and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month, and we honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces and our homes. Join SAfm in recognizing the achievements, strengths and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
My first conversation today is Sanele Mlambo, who's the head of marketing for Impact Group, and we're talking around amplifying women's voices and the role that male allies can play here, particularly males within leadership positions. How are you doing this afternoon, Sanele?
I'm well, thanks, Bridget. And how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for taking the time. So you jump off the conversation as we celebrate Women's Month. And this time around, you are asking us to reflect on the pivotal role that male allies can play in amplifying women's voices in the workplace, particularly within leadership roles. And in fact, your organization, Impact Group, you have a workforce comprising of 70% women. Well, firstly, congratulations there. And that stands as a testament to the power of female voices within the workforce. Really, congratulations there. 70%, female workforce is nothing to sort of gloss over. It is quite the putting your money where your mouth is in real numbers.
Certainly, Bridget, thank you so much. It is really intentional. So you can tell that our leadership is serious about women and making sure that we promote them as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about, as we reflect on these conversations for Women's Month, but the importance, firstly, in female representation within the workforce in South Africa, also given what we know about South Africa being a majority female population, females comprising over 51% of the population, and also being really majority female-led households, single female-led households even.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I must say there has been a shift. I was reading a stat the other day that said that prior to 1994, there was only 2% women in parliament. And now we are sitting at about 42%. So there's definitely a shift. There is growth, and we really are happy with that. But there's still more to be done. I think women really face some issues. There are systemic barriers that women face. And those barriers, they manifest as gender bias, as unequal pay, and also limited access to mentorship and sponsorship. And we really want male colleagues to also help us, because it's a concerted effort which is going to help all of us in resolving those.
And if we are to hone in a little bit further, Sanele, on those systemic barriers that women face and that inhibit their professional growth, like you said, you've listed quite a handful of them. But let's talk about, how do we begin to, I guess, redress those, right? What do we begin to do to tackle things like gender bias, unequal pay, limited access to mentorship and sponsorship?
So I think for me, there are strategies that our male allies can deal with or help us to solve this problem. Firstly, it's really by listening and valuing women's perspective. Create spaces where women can feel safe to voice their opinions and concerns. Let them ask questions and gain meaningful insights, which will really help to lead to real change. Second of all, I think for me, public support and recognition is important. Publicly recognize the contributions of female colleagues, either in meetings or through internal comms or even on social media. So when male leaders highlight the achievements of women, it won't only boost the individual morale, but it will also set a scene or set a standard for others to follow, to say, if this person can do it, so can I. And there is recognition that comes with it.
And part of what you also highlight is that overcoming these challenges requires a concerted effort, right, in resetting company cultures and practice. And you say this is something that can be led by male allies in leadership. Let's unpack that. How do we go about sort of resetting, especially when we look at company culture? And so many of them are really, male-dominated perspective of what company culture is.
Yeah. I think for me, one of those would really be about mentorship and sponsorship, right? So mentorship and sponsorship are really critical in achieving this. Mentorship involves those in leadership roles guiding and advising their colleagues on their career paths by sharing their experience, offering their career advice, and really help them to navigate the challenges of the workplace. Whereas sponsorship goes a step further, right? It talks about promoting women in positions which are leadership positions, really talking about giving them strategic roles, right? Making sure that women are really going up the ranks because they are capable. They are capable just like their male counterparts.
And you know, I think one of the sort of, or a lot of the conversation that we have is always around the role and importance of mentorships, but we pay very little attention to the equal importance of sponsorship. Someone championing your career, invested in it, and also someone who sits in particular rooms where you are not there to advocate for you as a professional.
I mean, there you're talking about sponsorship. The active endorsement can really open doors, which otherwise would have remained closed. I think I am privileged to work with such a CEO. So Alan Quinn, who's our CEO, is really about gender equality. So he really ensures that women are given equal opportunities, and also they get equal pay just like their male counterparts, because we hardly see that happening. So we need those guys who are going to really be about promoting women and be the advocates for women as well.
Why has that been sort of a struggle to get right within the corporate sector?
You know, I can just, this is just my opinion, right? But I do think historically men have been in the workplace longer, because before women were staying at home when males go and work. So men have got more experience in that regard. But things have changed. We've seen women who are also in leadership positions who are as capable. So I think it's a historical issue that we are dealing with, but that can be resolved now because we know that women are also available to take on these roles.
Let's take a quick pause here for a second. It's just gone 20 past 1 o'clock, and then we'll come back on the other side and continue our conversation. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, and 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line if you'd like to weigh in on this conversation. How do we go about amplifying women's voices within, of course, our professional settings in the workplace? And is there a role for male allies, particularly those in leadership, to play here in advancing the progress of women professionals out there? I'd love to hear from you. 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line.
Think bigger than just a banking partner. Think a team of specialized experts supporting you to make better financial decisions to enable your growth aspirations. Think a strategic partnership providing indispensable advice to help you make the right moves. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. For more information, visit nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Ashupol is over 110 years old and was born out of the desire to serve South Africans who work hard to build this country from the ground up. With over 5 million lives covered and named Best Life Insurer by Forbes, Ashupol is here for you today and will be there for your family tomorrow. SMS serve to 44366 and we'll call you back. Ashupol is an insurer licensed to conduct life insurance business and authorized financial services provider. FSP 53. T's and C's do apply.
Winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Tamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
Do you think that there is a role to play by male allies, particularly those in leadership positions, in helping amplify women's voices in the workplace and professionally, and ensuring that there is real and tangible representation and advancement for women in professional sectors? 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line, or 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. and we are in conversation with Sanele Mlambo, who's the head of marketing for Impact Group, and they seem to be getting it correct with a 70% female representation in the workforce, and something that has been consciously and deliberately driven by the executive team under the leadership of their CEO, Alan Quinn, at their organization. And as we continue this conversation, we'd love to hear from you and your perspective of this. You know, when you talk about the key strategies, Sanele, that male allies could deploy in helping women in the workplace, and you brought up, for instance, breaking gender stereotypes, right? And this always seems to be a hindrance for female progress in the workplace, because it's so ingrained within our society, sort of the gender roles, that oftentimes there's this unfairness that's levied on women, that women have got to balance career with family life, and for some reason it's impossible for them to do it. But the same expectation and the same characterization is not reserved for our male counterparts.
Yeah. That is so true, right? So women often face the scrutiny about their ability to balance work and family life, right? And people think that they cannot do both. They cannot be effective leaders and committed mothers. So I think offering flexible working schedules allow mothers to manage their time more effectively. And, return to work programs can also help women transition back into the workforce after the maternity leave. So ensuring that they don't miss out on career advancement. So highlighting successful working mothers within a company can also inspire others to change their perception.
And in fact, you talk about the return to work programs, for instance, that companies could use. Correct me if I'm wrong, because some of these measures around being an ally and an advocate for women drill down to the most micro of actions. The ability for women to fully dedicate themselves when they are at work means that they have to have less stresses and worries, for instance, about things such as childcare, or and I found that in female-led organizations where there's a deliberate consciousness of making it easier for moms, even little actions taken by the company of having a little nursery within the organization, it goes a long way to ensuring that mom can go pick up her kid, bring them back to the office, work a little bit longer while they wait for the traffic, and knowing that her child is right there underneath her nose in the workplace and someone is minding them while she focuses on the business of working.
Certainly. I think if you think about it, moms, we worry a lot about our kids. So if I know that the child is taken care of, then that worry goes away. Then I can focus more on the work that I need to do. So that is definitely something that can be done. But I think also leadership support can make a significant difference in changing the perceptions as well. I mean, think about the parental leave. So that, for me, I think it must be done for both genders. Encourage men as well to take parental leave, which will help to normalize the idea that both parents can share caregiving responsibilities.
Absolutely. Our lines are open now if you want to weigh in on the conversation. 086-000-2032 or 061-410-4107 is the number that you can call us on. You are more than welcome to do so. The buzzword for the last few years has been inclusivity, but what does inclusivity look like in the context of this conversation that we're having?
For me, I really believe that inclusivity talks about the environment where everyone feels valued and able to contribute. And it can only happen if we are intentional working towards creating them. So true inclusivity only comes about implementing bias training, which educates employees about unconscious bias and helps create a more supportive environment for women. Promoting flexible work arrangements, such as offering flexible hours or remote working options. A woman can really balance their professional and personal responsibilities.
I want to take a quick pause here because, I don't want to ask you something and then we have to break for the headline news in any case.
That's
so
okay.
Let's break for the headline news and then we'll come back and continue our conversation.
Okay, thanks.
The SAfm University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 30th of August 2024 at the SABC in Bloemfontein. The University of the Free State will take on the Central University of Technology in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAfm University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Very good afternoon. With the news headlines, Mudubi Makhalimele. Eskom's Group Chief Executive will this afternoon brief the media on the state of the company's business and its summer outlook. President Cyril Ramaphosa says extensive training should be used to strengthen municipalities' capacity to manage the energy transition. And the KZN Economic Development MEC will today brief the media in Durban on the suspension of the banking license of Itala Limited. A full news update coming up 2 o'clock.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Listen, I think I'm listening to this program about how women must be empowered and all of that. I think what you need to make clear is that you're talking about privileged positions for women. You're saying they need extra care and all of this. How does this address working class women's issues who make up the majority of women in the country? Also, I would like to hear more about how do we address the class issues rather than the gender issues, because there is an enormous, if we can call it, bias or weight put on gender and race in this country. And it's no surprise that we're not able to deal with real economic issues related to class, because this has taken over that space.
SAfm values your views. Be an active citizen.
All right, our lines are open for you to share your perspective. Sanele, you are still with us. So the question posed by that voice note, how does this conversation and other similar conversations, I guess, go about addressing working class women? Because his assumption is that we're speaking, for a privileged few, or the conversation represents a privileged few, if I understood correctly. But I don't think that is in just the conversation.
Definitely not. So this is actually talking to every woman in the workplace, irrespective of the level that they are working. I mean, you spoke about our stats. So we are saying 70% of our workforce is females, which starts from a lower level to a higher level. And the promotions are happening throughout the different levels. So it's definitely not just a certain privilege level.
Because I mean, if we are to address, for instance, and he says that a lot of the conversations we have in general as a country are around racial and gender divides, but perhaps we need to speak more to sort of the class structures in society. But that's how we get there, right? That's how we bridge the class gaps, is by having the conversations around race and gender.
Definitely. And also I think why we are focusing this time on the gender issues because of the Women's Month, where this is the only time where we really put a spotlight to say how do we address these systematic barriers.
Here's the other thing that your CEO, for instance, as you were saying, is a big advocate and a big champion for gender diversity, right? And I wondered if when we speak about mentorship programs and sponsorship programs, maybe a little bit more difficult with sponsorship because there's a lot of nuance that's involved there. But when we speak about mentorship programs, for instance, is there room for organizations to be a little bit more proactive about maybe identifying that, at this level, Sanele, I think you should mentor Bridget, who's 2 levels below you, just to sort of be a proactive catalyst in achieving the goals and the objectives of what we're talking about?
Certainly, Bridget, I think for me, an effective leadership really includes establishing mentorship programs that pair male leaders with female employees to really provide the guidance and the support and really implement inclusive policies that promote gender equality. In my previous role, a previous organization, we really had something that was exactly that, where people were put on a program where they're being mentored, and it was a rotation program where people would then understand to say, in this department, this is how things are done. And if they are really thriving and doing well, that would then mean people can be promoted at the end.
It's so interesting that on Women's Month, when, we congregate as women being part of society, having conversations that inevitably affect us and our livelihoods and our advancement, we still get messages, and I'm just casting my eye on WhatsApp, we still get messages where people go, this woman, this and that is beginning to be nonsensical. And I can almost guess what gender sent that message.
I mean, I actually gave the stats just as we started about how right now there's been some shift, and there has been, and we acknowledge it, but we are saying more can still be done. That's really what we are saying. We are saying we are all playing the equal role, so let us be recognized equally.
Because, I mean, statistically, whether or not, and I don't have the hard data on me now, but whether or not you are tired or annoyed by the conversation,
it still happens.
It still happens. Statistically, women, in particular black women, domestically and internationally, are at the bottom of the feeding pole professionally. And
it still happens.
It still happens. So these conversations must still be ongoing, and they're still going to be ongoing until rand for rand, value for value, worth for worth. I am the same as my colleague Tula Sizwe and Aldrin and Ashraf and everyone else.
I think if we want to change that, if we don't hear about this conversation, then let us make the difference. Let us be the change that we want to see. That's really the message that I want to leave the listeners with.
Right. And I also would like to take it like a little bit, one step personal and bring it closer to people's homes and say, well, imagine the impact if in your household, and now I'm just hypotheticaling here, in your household, you and your wife were paid the exact same amount of money for the exact same work. Were provided the exact same opportunities for the exact same effort. Like, imagine your girl child going in to stand on the employment line with a male counterpart and then coming back home and telling you that he's getting 100 Rand and she's getting 10 Rand.
Exactly. And what we are saying is that we are not saying ignore the boy child. We are saying let us fix the inequalities. Let us make sure that everything is balanced so that we can all benefit. That's all we are saying. Absolutely. And if there is that benefit, we're going to improve on the economy as well.
Absolutely. Sanele Mlambo, thank you so much for the conversation today. Sanele is the head of marketing for Impact Group. That is how we wrap up this one. Let's take a quick breather and then we'll come back on the other side and continue our chats.
British supergroup Smokey is touring South Africa in September. Party of the year with Mexican Girl, Needles and Pins, and of course, living next door to Alice. Smokey in South Africa, Cape Town 18 September, Pretoria 20 September, Port Elizabeth 21 September, and Carnival City on 22 September. Bookings at ltickets.coza, 011 815 3000 or smoky.coza.
So Sharon at office was telling me the way drip is so expensive these days. She's now waiting for her old clothes to come back into fashion. I say, Joza, while you're waiting, why not let your money do the things in a NetBank Just Invest account where you can get your money after 24 hours notice? Oganjani voiceman.
In Jano Mabel, you can earn up to 8.75% interest. Anyone can open an investment account via the Money app in under 2 minutes. See money differently. NetBank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. Promo rates apply.
The Serengeti, located on the northern part of Tanzania, bordering Kenya on the north and Ngorongoro in the south. Home to the African Big Five and millions of zebras, birds and other predators. Serengeti 2 returns to the unspoiled corner of the Serengeti for more animal drama. There's humor, heartbreak and nail-biting tension as new characters move in and familiar faces continue their stories. Channel your inner adventurer with Serengeti 2, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
And my next guest is Tsietsi Ngobese, who's an actual analyst and We Solve for X CEO. You know, in all of my grown big years, I still don't know. When people throw out this, I'm an actual what? I'm still like, when's that? How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I mean, you can offline me or you can online, because I'm pretty sure there's this lovely trend that I love on social media now where we all are confused together about things that we use very commonly, and then someone will have the courage once in a while to tweet and say, in my big old age, I still don't know what an actual does. So this is me tweeting on behalf of everybody to say, before we even get into the conversation and we get into We Solve for X, tell me what this fancy qualification does.
We crunch numbers. We make financial sense of the future.
Okay.
So in short, I would say any insurance premium you are paying has been calculated by actuaries and priced by actuaries, yes.
Okay, lovely. All right. Okay, so I knew they crunched the numbers. But and we've got Tsietsi in studio because we're here to talk about a maths competition that you guys have going on. But before we get to that, let's also get some context as to We Solve for X, of which you are the CEO.
Yes.
Tell me, what is We Solve for X?
No, We Solve for X Foundation, it's a non-profit organization where we adopt schools and then we teach learners maths from grade 4 to 12 across the country. We also teach parents maths so that they're able to help their kids with homework and understand how to make sure they tackle those maths concepts at home with the learners. So we teach them according to their grade at no cost. So that is our core, yes.
Oh, very interesting. I mean, okay, I get you sort of teaching and helping bolster what the education sector already does with the grade 4 to grade 12s. But, you know, I'm mom. I'm definitely not getting that algebra correct at my late stage. So I'm sure it's interesting for you teaching both the kids and the parents as well in order for them to be that at-home support. Because, you know, old minds don't grasp concepts that easily.
No, definitely. I mean, we have one of our three-step process which any parent can use. If a child comes back home, they say they have homework, the first question you must ask, what is the topic?
Okay.
Bring the textbook. Let's do the textbook example together 10 times before you do the exercise. Then once you see there's a challenge, at least you know which topic your child is struggling with, and then you are able to get additional help. So that is the concept around the We Solve for X Parents Maths Masterclass. Just to make them understand that no learner struggle with mathematics, they struggle with the topic or a concept. So once they know, then they are able to intervene.
Nikamba manga Tsietsi, when you say no learners struggle with mathematics. Yay, I struggled with mathematics my entire scholastic life. I struggled with mathematics. Hey, so we don't struggle with mathematics, we struggle with the concepts. And you say from grade 4 to 12 is where you come in to be supportive.
Yes.
And you work in tandem with schools and...
So how we work, we adopt schools, and then within an area we will recruit tutors or teachers who have the passion to assist the kids on weekends, and then they will come and assist those individual learners in the adopted schools.
And how has that been? I mean, when did you begin this program?
So it's 10 years now.
Lovely.
We started 2013 as first year actuarial science student from the University of the Free State. We've been helping, we've never looked back. So we're trying to inspire the next generation of actuaries and other kids to have passion for mathematics and follow different maths careers, or whichever career they want to do. Maths shouldn't be a challenge.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, it's incredible work that you're doing and plugging in to an actual problem that we have in the country at the moment. And in the 10 years that you've been doing this, I mean, what sort of results have you seen been yielded by yourself and your team's efforts?
So we've seen an increase in the number of Black learners or African learners studying actuarial science.
Oh, really?
So for us is what we're trying to, our core, to try and transform the actuarial profession. But in order to do that, we must increase the number of learners that are doing well in mathematics. But we've given hope to most learners to follow different career paths that they want to pursue, and then also engaging parents to come back into the schools and the classroom without only coming on as an issue at school, but coming to learn. And see how they can continue to help their kids with their homeworks at home.
And I presume because your entire professional self is centered around, mathematics and sort of numbers data, you'll do a good job at tracking the kids that are coming out from the schools that you've partnered with and seeing which directions they go by way of, academic choices and how many of those speak to mathematics or mathematics related.
No, definitely. We're seeing an increase in the kids coming from the program, like especially on the actuarial science, because that's where most our focus is. I mean, this year we had 612 first years coming from matric who studying actuarial science, which was an increase from the previous year.
Wow.
We were at 314. So we're targeting to have 1,000 learners next year studying actuarial science and other maths related field, but we cannot take the credit alone. I mean, teachers are doing their work. We're just coming in as a support system just to bring that additional support.
Wonderful. I mean, but it's what the sector has been asking for and calling for, right? More support. We know how inundated and under pressure our teachers are, and so there's not that much time for that one-on-one interface with students. So you guys seem to be plugging in quite beautifully on that. Talk to us about, is it the Gibela We Solve for X Maths competition?
Yes, definitely. So Gibela Rail has come on board to support us and partner with us for the next 3 years to increase the maths proficiency for maths in primary schools in Gauteng and Western Cape, where we have these ongoing classes for the learners and the parents, adding to the work that we're doing, so they're becoming handy. So now we're launching the We Solve for X Gibela Maths competition for grade 6 learners, where they will be writing the competition on the 5th of October in Nigel Primary Schools. It has 2 rounds. So the first round is on the 5th of October, and the second round is on the 2nd November, where kids will score 75% and above from the first round will qualify
for round 2.
For round 2, yes. So we're trying to instill the love and passion for mathematics at an early age. So through this competition is to engage more learners, to show them that there's more beyond the numbers.
Lovely. All right, and you get to walk away with the glory of being the match champ for your region.
No, definitely. So for now we're only focusing with Gauteng. It's for Gauteng-based schools, where parents or schools or guardians can apply for their learners to come to be part of the competition. They apply online. Go to our website www.wesolve4x.co.za, and then they will click the competition button. The closing date is on the 15th of September.
Lovely.
So you can either apply as a school representative for your school or as a parent for your child who is in grade 6.
Grade 6. Wonderful stuff. I mean, listen, you're doing incredible work, and it was such a pleasure to meet you. And we hope that this program actually gets amplified across all 9 provinces. I'm sure you can pull into the actual sciences community there and let it have tentacles even in the regions that it doesn't have tentacles in. 15 September is that close date if you want to be involved with the Gibela We Solve for X Maths competition for grade 6, and you can go to We Solve for X, the numeral 4, wesolve4x.co.za, and click on the respective tab there. It's fast approaching 10 to in just a matter of moments. It's time for us to get into Kids Corner, a wonderful segue into Kids Corner, and then we'll come back and get into the top of the hour news.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello, my name is Khaleletang Mukebe. I go to Rosebank Primary School. I am 9 years old, turning 10 on the 1st of March. So when I'm in a disagreement with a friend, I will just say it's fine and then just try to stop the fight. Yes, Miss, I do try to understand their point of view, but they sometimes just don't understand my point of view. When they don't understand, I just try explaining, but they'll never understand.
Why won't they understand?
Like, Miss, they're too busy trying to fight with me to ever listen. When I'm upset, I try expressing myself just by telling them what they've done and how it's affected me emotionally. Sometimes I have asked my teacher to help me during a conflict. If it's a lot more heated, I will ask. If it's not like that heated, I won't tell the teacher. I'll just try to sort it out myself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tabang Kuno. I am 9 years old and I'm from Rosebank Primary School. When I am in a disagreement with my classmate, I tell them to stop and then I try to prove myself first. Yes, I do try to figure out their understanding of me, and they try also. When I'm upset with my classmate, I start screaming and shouting. No, it does not resolve my conflict. Sometimes during a conflict, I've tried to engage my teachers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Reese King and I go to Rosebank Primary School. I am 11 years old. And whenever I have a fight or disagreement with my friend, I try and resolve it by trying to see what they have to say and trying to see their side of the story if something bad happens, and I do try and get my teachers involved, but sometimes I try and resolve it by myself. Sometimes I do find it difficult to stay calm in a disagreement because that person that I might be fighting with made me a bit upset, and I whenever I fight with them, I try to keep my cool, and that's why I try to see their story first. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kailani Mkize. I am 11 years old and I go to Rosebank Primary. The first thing I do when I get in a conflict with one of my classmates is I try to see what they want to say, and then I say what I want to say. If they say a bunch of nonsense, I try to explain to them why and how this conflict started to understand what they want to say. So I try to understand what they want to say, but I also want to say what I want to say. If they shut me down, I try to tell them I'm still talking, and then I find it very difficult to keep my calm in the conflict with my classmate. Depending on who the classmate's with, I really might get angry to the point I might start shouting. I try to keep my cool, but it doesn't work at the time because I'm a very short-tempered person. So I find it very difficult because the person's trying to say something and I'm also trying to say something. So it gets difficult for me to keep my cool. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lihle Lapo. I am 12 years old. I go to Rosebank Primary School. What would I do if I find myself and my classmate in a conflict? I would first see how it's going. If it's really deep, I tell the teacher and I try to fix it verbally, not physically. And if I did the mistake, I solve
and I try to say sorry for what I did. If I feel like she or he has a problem with me, I tell the teacher and I ask the teacher to separate me from the learner. To children, maybe in my opinion, just don't mind the person. Just because you're not there for them, you're there for something else. So if they have a problem with you, just shush and just continue with what you're doing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zazi Amahlem. I'm 12 years old and I'm a scholar at Rosebank Primary School. The first thing I would do if I got into a conflict with my fellow classmates is try and let myself, but if I see that it goes overboard and it's beyond my control, I would involve a teacher or any other trusted adult in the school premises. I find it easy and difficult at the same time because it depends on who the classmate is and what kind of a situation it is or how my mood is, because respect goes both ways. So if it's a classmate that doesn't respect me, I don't think I have the need to respect them. But at the same time, it's easy for me because I can just tell myself that I'm bigger than the situation. I can't let something so small bring me down.
Hello, my name is Lika Butelezi and I'm 11 years old. I'm a learner from Rosebank Primary School. The first thing I do is I listen to why they disagree, and hopefully they listen to why I disagree, and then we'll try and resolve it and then forget about it at the end. It depends, because sometimes if the person is calm, then I'll also be calm with them. But if they're more aggressive, then I'd involve a teacher. Just listen to each other's disagreements and then try and resolve it together.
Hi, my name is Kim Malaji and I am in grade 5. I am 11 years old and I go to Rosebank Primary School. The first thing I do is I try to understand why they're fighting, and then I tell them what I disagree with them. Then if like it's a very heated disagreement, I try to solve it with a teacher and tell them what was going on. And yes, I have found myself in a heated disagreement. I find it very hard to stay calm in a disagreement because, well, it depends on my mood. If the person's calm or if I'm calm. If the disagreement is very, very heated, then I will not tolerate her nonsense.
Hi, my name is Langaloku Lunganumbewe and I'm 10 years old and I go to Rosebank Primary School. When I find myself in a disagreement with my classmates, I'll just give them the silent treatments. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it does not work. It's not easy and I'll always be mad at you, or I might scream at you. I think the best way is to just say sorry to each other and listen to each other. Thank you.
Hello friends and happy Monday. Wishing you all a fantastic new week. Today we are going to chat about how to resolve differences and conflicts with your friends at school. Conflicts are a normal part of life, especially in a school setting where you spend a lot of time with your classmates. Disagreements are bound to pop up, but knowing how to handle them can really enhance your school experience. Let's explore some steps you can take to work through conflicts with your peers. First off, it's important to keep your cool when a disagreement arises. When emotions run high, it's easy to say or do things you might regret later. Take a moment to breathe deeply and count to 10 before you respond. This pause will help you calm down and think more clearly about your next steps. Remember, staying composed can help prevent the situation from escalating. Next, make sure you listen to the other person's perspective. Many conflicts stem from misunderstanding. By really paying attention to what your classmate is saying, you might discover that the issue isn't as serious as it seems. Then use I statements to share your feelings. Instead of pointing fingers and saying you did this, you did that, try expressing yourself with, I feel upset when this happens. This approach allows you to communicate your feelings without putting the other person on the defensive. It's much easier to resolve a conflict when both parties feel heard and respected. Collaborate to find a solution. Once both of you have expressed your feelings, brainstorm ways to address the issue. Sometimes finding a resolution may require some compromise to reach a solution that works for both of you. The focus should be on resolving the problem rather than winning the argument. When a disagreement is settled, it's important to release any lingering anger or pain. Opt to forgive your classmate and consider what you can learn from the situation. Treat conflict as a chance to improve your skills in managing tough situations and to enhance your friendships. Keep in mind that everyone slips up, but our responses to those slip-ups truly define us.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. SAfm supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAfm, leading the conversation.
Essential Cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. Simply SMS CAR to 43187 now.
The top stories this hour: Eskom to give an update on its summer outlook, and construction mafia suspect to appear in court. A very good afternoon. Eskom's Group Chief Executive will this afternoon brief the media on the state of the company's business and its summer outlook. This as rolling blackouts remain suspended, with Eskom providing uninterrupted power supply for over 150 consecutive days, including in winter. The briefing at Eskom's headquarters will also offer an in-depth look at the Utilities Executive Committee's operational performance. President Cyril Ramaphosa says extensive training should be used to strengthen the capacity of municipalities to manage the energy transition. He says new systems will be required to identify the needs, including human resources and technical capacity. Ramaphosa says the just energy transition is about promoting economic diversification, transformation and industrialization in the renewable energy sector. He delivered the keynote address at the Just Energy Transition Municipal Conference in Midrand. KZN Economic Development MEC Musa Zondi will today brief the media in Durban on the suspension of the banking license of Ithala Limited. Last week, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority announced that the KZN-based state-owned development bank's license had been suspended because it did not meet the requirements for financial service providers. Meanwhile, independent analyst Kaya Sithole says Ithala must transfer any outstanding businesses to another authorized FSP.
What seems to be the problem with Ithala is that obviously because it does not have a current exemption notice, it should not be undertaking the business that it's undertaking. Because it is about to lose its sponsor, it is obviously not ideal for it to be onboarding new customers. It needs to be able to figure out how to deal with the current customer base. But the problem here, of course, is that whenever people hear that a license has been suspended for a banking institution, the assumption is that you're no longer going to be able to access your funds. So a lot of people would legitimately panic when they hear this, which is why it's important for the bank to keep explaining exactly what the state of affairs is.
In KZN, 5 suspects arrested for activities related to the construction mafia in Umsunduzi are expected to appear in the Campersdown Magistrates Court today. The Provincial Reaction Task Force that specifically deals with construction mafia-related activities made the arrests on Saturday. Public Works Minister Dean McPherson is in court.
It's vitally important that they have the backing of us to be able to do their jobs to secure these sites and to bring those that are responsible for these attack on our construction sites, who are responsible for extortion and violence and murder, to book. We want to ensure that this case is kept on the roll, that those who are accused are denied bail, that the necessary investigations are done.
And the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein has cautioned the East Asian Consortium that it should not ignore the legal bearing of its case against the cell phone network operator MTN on the Iranian government. The SCA is hearing the consortium's appeal on its 74 billion rand lawsuit against MTN. The consortium alleges that MTN bribed Iranian officials to influence a public tender process for a mobile operating license in that country. The SCA is expected to make a decision on whether or not it has the jurisdiction on the matter. Recapping the top story at 2 o'clock, Eskom's Group Chief Executive will this afternoon brief the media on the state of the company's business and its summer outlook. The Full Circle continues. For SAfm News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
I'm sorry, Madupi, I made you run. My apologies. That was Madupi Makhalemele. And that's it for the news for this hour. Theft, accident, and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. And you can get your quote today by SMSing car to 43187. And remember that for your car, which may be old, but driving without insurance is a risk every time that you're on the road. Don't take the gamble. Rather, Outsurance Essential is affordable insurance for older cars, giving you up to 1 million rand liability cover and loads more. And plus, you can also claim, and claims are paid in cash, so you can use your own panel beater. Outsurance Essential is priced for cars older than 5 years and valued under 125,000 and of course not financed. Simply SMS car to 43187 or call 0800 60,000 today. Remember that Outsurance is a licensed FSP and of course T's and C's do apply.
Catch me, Bonang Mateba, on a fresh reality series that showcases the business behind being a business. Get to experience an intimate look at my life with family, personal growth, and my mission to uplift young women. Jet with me as we prepare to crown a lucky chaser. Be grounded, be entertained, and be dazzled. Monday, 6 p.m. on S3, it's a date with you and B. Catch Bedazzled by Bonang on S3 every Monday at 6 p.m.
Need a loan? Pay for what you need when you need it with a personal loan from Nedbank. And if you open a MyGoals Plus or MyGoals Premium account, you can enjoy 200 Rand cashback every month for the duration of your loan. That's 200 Rand every month to buy extra groceries or save for a rainy day. Visit nedbank.co.za and join the bank that's best for your loans. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Buccaneers are highly against anything that will prevent them from getting to the final as they chase their third consecutive title. But the citizens are on a mission to spoil that party. This is the second leg of the MTN 8 semi-final. Defending champs Orlando Pirates FC tackle Cape Town City FC on Saturday, 31 August at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
game. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Malo way.
ubuhlehlehlezi amazinyo amhlophe kweqhubsini unyathelo ubuhle bevela ubuhle bomuntu Malowe ha watch him so on Sunday afternoon, sitting in the Papola Park, the sun was streaming through the leaves. Lovers were strolling up and down. Here come a beauty taxi. She comes from north going south. Oh, whatever, Mama. Otaktindi Mama Ostandosa Ubuhle bembe Awubheka ubuhle bomuntu Westandosa Umuntu wamuhlelele ngithi wamuhla umntwana umuntu muhlokonyezi lukhanya ebusuku muhlebelanga entwasahlobo muhle sengathi ugeza ngobisi wamuhla umafeka wasanda sami awuzobumnandi awubona ubuhle bemvelo awuzobumnandi imvelo nobuhle bomnandi umamamba wemalo basho besuthu bathi Malowe Malowe nomele watch him so
He's one of those, or he was one of those that had a really fascinating childhood, and fascinating not because it was all roses and roses and all things great, but it actually started off quite tumultuous, like a number of South African and by and large African young people. At the age of 14 already, he had to abandon his schooling in order for him to get out into the workforce and earn a living after he lost his mother. His father was a miner, and his brother was in a band, in a reggae and soul band. And then his dad also performed as an a cappella singer in his pastime, and so Jabu then went into music as a way of just earning some money so that he could get by and survive. And of course we know that journey ultimately led him to many interesting places, including at one point joining his brother's band and later becoming the vocalist for that band, and then in 1977 moved on to be with the Movers, and by 1984 he had joined Bayete as a drummer, and we know from then onwards it was uphill to awards and international accolades as well, alongside which was being recognized for the Cora Awards at the time, a 2-time Cora Award winner, performing on stages with the likes of Yusuf Ndo and Angelique Kidjo, Papa Wembe, and so the list goes on and on, including being one of the artists that were invited to perform for a Nelson Mandela Royal Gala evening back in 1996, which really just cemented his place in international stardom. Gone too soon, even in his very mature age. The talent is dearly missed. It's just gone 2:15 on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. I hope you are having a fine Monday. And we are now going to be in conversation with the managing director of Sukume Consulting, Vuyelwa Nyagaza, who joins me. And we're having a conversation around the biggest challenges that are facing the local entrepreneurship sector. And we know that in SA, for instance, the conversation is much about driving entrepreneurship. In fact, it's recognized as one of the key drivers of employment and economic growth. It contributes to around 39% to the nation's GDP. However, Vuyelwa and folks just like her within these spaces still say that despite all of this, despite all of the significance and the importance for entrepreneurships, we still see a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises facing alarmingly high failure rates, and we're going to explore exactly what is needed by way of addressing or redressing some of these challenges. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming through. We appreciate it. 39% towards the nation's GDP. Mm-hmm. It's a significant percentage. And yet, on the flip side, the failure rates are equally, if not even higher, than the sort of players in the sector. What does that speak to?
I think there's a lack of preparedness. I think there's a number of factors, and one of which is the lack of preparedness of entrepreneurs for the industry and the sector itself. So people go to university to get jobs, and so they're familiar with what that takes, but there's very little that is spoken about, especially I will call maybe black or previously disadvantaged families, about the area of business. So it's something that as a people it's relatively new in terms of the numbers of people that are entering the space. So there's a lack of maybe institutional knowledge that people bring into the space. So there's quite a high failure rate because of the lack of, as I said, the institutional capital or the social capital that one brings into the business. The other factors have to do with, for example, the lack of support, or at least maybe let me say adequate support for small and medium enterprises. So if you look at the government does a lot in terms of small and medium enterprises. There's a lot of money. There's institutions like your CEDAs, your CFAs, and others that are working very hard to do something to assist small and medium enterprises because of that recognition that they contribute so much to GDP, to employment, and basically to social change. In the private sector, very, very similar numbers, a lot of goodwill, a lot of support, ESD funding going into the space in huge volumes, actually. However, what we are discovering is that kind of support that both government and the private sector are giving is not necessarily aligned to the highest needs that entrepreneurs actually require in order for them to succeed. So there's a mismatch between intention, goodwill, and what SMEs are actually going through and what they actually need to turn around. So there's a number of factors but those, I would say, are some of the biggest sort of issues, that entrepreneurs are facing. There's also the issue of their own skill. Their own ability to really dominate the industries that they are coming into, understanding their dynamics. It's like it takes a bit of time before an entrepreneur comes into the space and they actually understand what is actually going on, because you come into the space, you have your own idea of what you think this business is about. Some people come in with actual experience, even in the industry, but the industry has its own dynamics, and it's usually your ability to pivot and understand how this thing, as it changes and it pulls, how do you adjust your business in order for you to survive? So it's a number of various factors, but I would say those are probably some of those most key.
All right. I also want to touch, and we're going to double back right to the misalignment of needs when it comes to support, but I also want to touch on what you say about the misconceptions entering spaces, right? What are, in your conversations, what are perhaps what do those speak to, the misconceptions that entrepreneurs have, them looking from the outside, looking in, versus actually being in the trenches?
I think the biggest, I don't know if it's a misconception, it's probably like an expectation, is that this thing is going to work out exactly the way I have in my head. And it almost never works out quite that way. So depending on the type of background that each of the entrepreneurs is coming from, some people are coming from the same industry that they are entering as entrepreneurs. For example, I'm a consultant, and I was already working as semi-consultant in the space. So I was very certain that I actually know what I'm doing. I was doing it for big corporations, so why can't I do it for myself? You get to the space and you realize that working for a big company, for example, you have a lot of support. You don't have to be your own PA, your own HR consultant. You don't have to do your financials. You have a whole network of very experienced people coming behind you to support your one role. And you also have leaders above you. You've got employees beneath you, around you. The amount of support that you have for you to just do the one thing that you think you do very well, when you come out, you are alone. And that is the biggest shock that you are going to get, is like, oops. And so there's a lot that you assume that you can just continue to operate the way you were. So that's some of the big misconceptions for people that come from the industry in which they enter in. I think if you are coming in as an entrepreneur from another industry, it's even more shocking for you, because now you are dealing with dynamics you have no experience in. You might be technically competent in doing whatever it is. Let's say you're producing leather, you're making toilet paper, whatever the case may be. The assumption is that it's easy for you to be able to do the thing that you convincing, or you have convinced yourself, or your friends, or people have seen you. A lot of entrepreneurs start out selling to their friends, etc. So your friends will compliment you, they'll tell you they're right, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, markets have dynamics. There's a factor of competition. There is a factor of you again being alone, being everything and doing everything. And I think the hardest thing, or the thing that most people, even entrepreneurs that have been there before you, it's very difficult to understand, is how difficult it is to be and succeed in entrepreneurship. Nobody tells you that. It doesn't matter how your friends who have gone before you, or people that you've known, the actual reality of being in the trenches, digging and building a business, it's probably one of the most difficult things anybody will ever attempt. So kudos to entrepreneurs for even attempting it, because it's you don't know. Very few people know just how very, very difficult it is. So I think we are not prepared for the amount of hours, you know. Sometimes the social being ostracized, some industries, as if you're black, you're female, you are working in industries that you have no business being in, inverted commas. It's really, really hard, and I think loneliness. Sometimes entrepreneurship can be very lonely. People that you are dealing with, especially from our families, who are like, you left corporate and a nice job. Like, what are you doing? And you're trying to leave a legacy. You're trying to do something that previous generations have not done. And there's sometimes you get a lot of support, but sometimes people do not understand the sacrifices that you're making. And I think that's really hard, you know, and it hits entrepreneurs very hard. And I also it links to the issue of lack of support sometimes, in terms of, if people don't understand what you are going through, how are they going to support you?
How are they going to show up
exactly
for you? How are they going to show up?
Exactly.
Right? So, and tough love is not always support in this journey of being an entrepreneur. And I mean, and that speaks to so many dynamics, and I love how honest and frank you are about it, because it's important to take the rose-tinted glasses off when you feel that you have an idea, or you want to follow up on that idea, or you're doing something for someone and you feel you can do it and build it on your own for yourself. How do we then begin to address some of let's look at the assumption of it all. What conversations then should entrepreneurs be having if the assumption off the gate is, I've got this really great idea, or I do this for someone else and I can do it as successfully for myself, and you say, you know, most of the time, like, that leads to some kind of rude awakening or even failures at the worst. How do we begin to frame, because I think it's important to frame that conversation for yourself, that assumption and expectation for yourself off the gate?
I think it begins with I don't know, I call it being sober about the realities of the industry that you are going into. I think a lot of people nowadays, they do actually do a little bit of research to try and to understand what is this thing that I'm actually doing. So I think I would encourage that, because that goes a long way in terms of framing your mind. But as I said again, the research that you are doing, you could be reading articles, you could be talking to entrepreneurs that are in the space, but the moment you actually enter the space, it's like telling somebody about flying who has never flown. It's like, you can watch the movies, you can see how it is, but the actual experience itself sometimes can be very different. So you need to be very open in terms of your expectations. I think it's about lowering, for lack of a better term, lowering your expectations. Be more open-minded in terms of what happens here. You cannot always predict, because a lot of the times entrepreneurs expect that this thing is going to be like this, and the moment it begins to shift and it change, they struggle to flow with it. They struggle to pivot, or they struggle to understand that this is part of the journey. There's something that entrepreneurs who have passed through that 3-year mark, where a lot of entrepreneurs come out, is what we call school fees. You know, you have to understand that in any industry, in any endeavor that you attempt as a human being, there is always a chance. There's always a chance that it might not work out, and that's okay. It's what we call school fees. You have to pay some of the mistakes that we are making. You have to understand it's part of the journey. It's part of what it is that you are traveling, and at some point you are going to get to the place that you're going, but don't expect it to go exactly what is in your head or in your planner and all the things that the other entrepreneurs have told you, because your journey is sometimes quite unique, and depending on the sector, depending on market dynamics, some people enter the market at exactly the right space, they ride the waves, they make the money, and wow, you know, great. And some people come into the industry at a moment when things are not so great, and so forth. So it varies so significantly. So for me, it's about prepare your mind. And I think the second thing I would say is that how you understand failure. So a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, the moment things don't work out the way that they have, especially if they have a time frame for what it is that they wanted to accomplish, they feel bad about the you know, not having succeeded, for lack of a better term. However, I think for those who are in for the long haul, failure is part of the success, and I think we call it failing forward.
Yes.
As long as you continue to get up, to basically understand that you've just discovered, for example, another way of not doing something. And that's really what it is all about. And be willing to go with the flow until you kind of like find your own space, you find your own niche, you find your own rhythm within a sector. But give yourself time and don't be too hard on yourself, because a lot of the times, and I think also the media, I think you guys do glorify success in a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there's less stories about the journeys and how people then have arrived at that success. By the time someone is an overnight success, as in inverted commas, there's a lot of institutional knowledge, there's a lot of failures that have taken place to build that person, and I think so it's the mindset that you adopt as an entrepreneur. It's a never say die attitude, being very open to say, you know what, I will flow with these things as it changes, and actually I'm willing to learn and pay the fees for me to be able to ride the wave and succeed in this industry.
Fail fast and fail forward. That's always been my motto.
Very good.
Like, fail fast and fail forward. And let's take a quick pause here. We'll come back on the other side, and I'm going to steal like 5 more minutes to Vuyelo's conversation before my producer's face comes through the window to go, what? And then we'll come back and we'll wrap it up, because I also want to just touch a little bit on the elements of business coaching and mentorship, which are very important for entrepreneurs to succeed in these spaces, and then we'll see and maybe touch on one other theme, and then we'll wrap it up. It is 2:30. Madupi standing by with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, Asawa, the city of Joburg's MMC for Public Safety has welcomed Mayor Dada Morero's promise to unlock funds that will allow the city to provide transitional accommodation. Eskom's Group Chief Executive will this afternoon brief the media on the state of the company's business and its summer outlook, and rescue operations are continuing in eastern Sudan following the collapse of a dam which has killed at least 60 people. A full news update coming up 3 o'clock.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
It has just gone 2 o'clock, and we are in conversation with Vuyelwa Nyagaza, who's the managing director of Sukume Consulting. By the way, you can sidebar them and maybe set up a little appointment for yourself and get some guidance and advice about how do you build your dreams. I'm sure it's going to cost you a pretty penny, because she's also building her dreams. Let's talk about that element of coaching and mentorship. In the space. A lot of times people go at it alone. I don't think that's the best strategy.
Not at all. I think you think you can make it. I think it begins with thinking that you can make it because you've been there, you've been doing whatever it is that you were doing before. But I think I would say the critical ingredients for those who make it, I mean, that failure window is about 3 years. So it's not like immediate. However, coaching actually plays a very big role in terms of getting people through some of the tougher times, and also questioning the issues of the assumptions that they're making as they're doing their business. So it's almost like finding a coach or somebody that can assist you to walk the journey with you, to guide you. It's like a lot, if you think about it, most industries or just life in general, a child grows up in a home. And they have a mother, father, siblings, and so if they go to school, they have teachers and other support structures, and entrepreneurs get out of, say, their workspaces and suddenly they think they can do it alone. Whereas the entire journey of life is about shared experiences, about how the people that have gone before you are able to assist you. So a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of thinking they can actually go it alone. And some do for a while, but it's not sustainable. It's not one of the most sustainable ways of going about it. But there's various reasons why some entrepreneurs don't do the coaching, the coaching route. Is expensive. Let's face it. Coaching and especially business development services, things that relate to your how your business is actually doing, it comes at a very high cost, and very few entrepreneurs can afford that. But what I generally advise, if you cannot afford the services yourself, find someone or a couple of people, maybe maximum 2 or 3 people that know you, that have traveled the journey. They might not necessarily be entrepreneurs, but people who understand your industry, people who like what you're doing, believe in you personally, and or what your business is achieving in terms of social impact in society. Because then you build for yourself a network of people who not only are able to actually assist you with deep technical issues and or broader business issues that you cannot necessarily be able to handle on your own, but it's a community that you have that, like one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs that we deal with talk about is the loneliness aspect that can really, really kill one's momentum. And so having coaches or having a community of people that believe in you, are able to assist you as you travel the journey, it's priceless.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people that actually are willing to coach people, to mentor people, absolutely free. Lastly, there are organizations, for example, the Sherry Blair Foundation, that assist people, and just if you go online and you look for mentorship organizations globally, both and in South Africa, there are people who list their names as mentors, and so it's not as difficult as people think it is. To find some support. They're telling me on the screen that I have to wrap it up, because we could talk about this forever in a day, but I think you've given some invaluable advice, especially, I know we didn't get around to touching into the business of the business, things like watching cash flows and all the rest of that, and some of the strategies there. But I think what we've managed to get into our conversation is really dealing with the person, the entrepreneur themselves. And how to develop that, the thinking and the having to navigate yourself for success. So it's been a privilege. We appreciate you coming through. That was Vuyelwa Nyagaza, who is the Managing Director of Sukume Consulting. You can find them, just a quick one, just your website for anybody that might want to procure your service. It's www.sugume.com. Sugume.com is where you go, and Vuyelwa's got all the expertise that comes at a pretty cost, I'm sure, but it will be worthwhile down the line. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into our next conversation.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAfm Market Update.
SAfm Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
My next guest is Tebeni Maseko, who's the founder of Malaika Textiles. And of course, we're having a conversation around a key barrier to girls' education, particularly in the developing world, is a lack of access to basic menstrual health products. And Malaika Textiles is plugging in and contributing towards improving the lives of young girls. How are you doing, Tebeni? You good?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for the time. Okay, before we get into your project and your campaign, let's first find out a little bit more about Malaika Textiles. So I know that you were founded back in 2018, but tell me more about your organization.
Yes, thank you. Malaika Textile is a company that is established in 2019, and it started to be functional in 2020. Our basic product is washable, reusable sanitary towels, sanitary pads. Apparently, what happened is that we produce the pads from scratch to the finish. And as a teacher myself, I've been a teacher for almost 20 years. I've learned that girls bunk classes or absent themselves from school during their menstrual cycle due to lack of menstrual product.
Yeah.
So a girl might absent herself for 4 days in a week, in a month, and that leads to 60 days in a year. That is 2 months in a year. And can you imagine what happens to her schools academically because of the absenteeism?
Yeah.
Since I came up with this program, with this project, it's a washable pad which has a lifespan of 5 years.
Wow.
A girl can use it over, and it costs only 200 rand.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Again, if he buys this pad and can save up to 3,000 rand for 5 years, not buying pads using the same pad. My idea came from, our great-grandparents, they used cloth during their menstrual period. So I went back to that using the cloth too, which is washable and can be used over and over again for a period of 5 years.
Yeah, and and I don't know if I'm gender assigning you correct, Tebeni, but from the bass in the voice, I'm like, it's wonderful to hear a gentleman who is plugging into a she problem, because part of the...
No, it's not a gentleman.
You've just got a bass.
That's my voice is so...
It's a good thing I made that disclaimer, because here I was about to give kudos to that gender.
No, don't go there.
It's just the bass in the voice.
We've got a program called Keep a Girl Child at School.
Yes.
Where we go to corporates. We ask corporates to buy from my factory, from us, and then we go and distribute those pads to the rural and the farm school, because those girls are the ones that can't afford the pads. Even if you can put them on the shelf, they can't buy them. And as of now, they can't even afford the disposable ones. So those are our target, but they don't have money to buy the pads. So we go around asking corporates to buy from us, or they identify schools. Everybody has got a school somewhere from a rural background or something that they can identify and say, go and distribute to those schools. So when we go and distribute them, we distribute them for free to those girls that they are bought from us by corporate. And then we go further and make what's this a lesson? We teach the girls about how to keep themselves clean during the menstrual period, and their menstrual health and the menstrual cycle, and also how to take care of their pets if they are local, of course.
Yes. All right. So it's a 180 solution, because not only are you manufacturing these very affordable, reusable, washable pads, but then you go over and above that. The teacher in you also conducts menstrual education at the schools where you are distributing, which is invaluable. We take it for granted that everybody has a mother or a grandmother or an auntie in their life who actually teaches them about hygiene when you sort of get into your adolescence and start menstruating, or even teaches you about what is the expectation, your physical expectation, and how things change. And we know, from sort of the construct in our society, that there are a lot of children who are in child-led households, and a lot of children who've lost sort of the female in their families. So your interventions, much needed in a lot of our communities.
Yes, it's true, because some of them, they get amazed when we talk about that they must wash and so many times in a day. If they're on period, they get like, wow, are we supposed to wash ourselves so many times?
Yeah.
But that's the nature of menstruation.
Tell me about, and I don't know for now, because I know that your project was founded in Bombela, but have you managed to scale it up outside of the Mpumalanga region?
Yes, I've been to 7 provinces so far.
Wonderful.
In the whole of South Africa. I've even went outside the country because I've got the import certificate. So I've been to Swaziland and Mozambique, trying to get to explore the product there, because those people are like really, really poor. And I'm trying to involve the corporate on that side to buy from me, and then so that I can service the kids on that side. Yeah.
Wonderful. And now from a manufacturing perspective, because this is a reusable, washable pad, sanitary towel, the manufacturing process of it, is this a product that's sort of easily manufactured? What kind of textiles or substances are we using in its manufacturing?
Yeah, our product is SAfm approved, right? It's compliant, and then it contains some microbial layer, which is treated for microbacteria.
Yeah.
It has got a layer that protects it from leaking, so that for the dignity of the gas.
Yes.
It contains 5 layers for super, the other layers for super absorbent. Like I said, it's SAfm approved, so it's up to standard. Yes.
Lovely stuff. And of course, as you said, that you do have this campaign, Keep a Girl Child in School, where you're calling on corporates to come through and sponsor sanitary towels to respective schools. For anybody that wants to get a hold of you and your team in order to explore the conversation more, where do they go?
It's on my contract. It's 082-330-9129.
Oh, give it to us slowly, Tebeni.
It's 082-330-9129.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got a Facebook page, Malaika Textile.
Malaika Textile.
Yes.
Okay, lovely stuff. That's on Facebook. All right. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It sounds absolutely incredible. And hopefully you get 1 or 2, corporate sponsors maybe who can identify some schools on the back of this conversation. That was Tebeni Maseko, who's the founder of Malaika Textile. You heard you can find them on Facebook, Malaika Textile, or you can give a call on 082-330-9129. It's 082-330-9129 if you want to sponsor a school, or you want to sponsor a community center or a home of safety for girls with this. It's a reusable, washable sanitary towel with a lifespan of 5 years, locally manufactured. It costs 200 Rand per unit. 200 Rand for 5 years, it's a pretty good deal. And it brings dignity to a life of a young girl, and it also ensures that young teenage girls stay in school. You heard a lot of the time, we've had this conversation, a lot of the time, teenage girls who are going through their menstruations are having to be absent from school, and that's 4 days, 5 days a month, sometimes 7 days a month, depending on the individual, times 12 months. That's a significant amount of time for a young person to be absent at school, and you could be the intervention that they so desperately require. It's just gone 2:45 o'clock. Let's take a quick pause, and then we come back and we wrap up the show with our final conversation.
Weeknights on S3 are all about winning, and winning big with Wheel of Fortune. For the first time in South Africa, Wheel of Fortune is on S3, Monday to Friday at 7:30 p.m, where Rorisang has South Africans locked into the world of word puzzles. Watch contestants spin the wheel to stand a chance of walking away with 100,000 Rand, or a car valued at over 500,000 Rand. You can also be part of the show and win big. To be part of the show, log on to wheeloffortunesa.tv and let the wheel decide your fate. Channel your inner wordsmith with Wheel of Fortune SA on S3. Open up.
Northwest Provincial Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Premier and Finance will conduct public hearings on Northwest Youth Entrepreneurship Service Fund Act Repeal Bill 2023 on 30 August 2024 at Madibogo Community Hall in Madibogo, Twin Park Hall in Potchefstroom, Ipelege Multipurpose Center in Schweizer-Reneke, and Mokwase Sports Ground Park Zone 1 in Mokwase at 10 o'clock. The bill aims to provide for the repeal of the Northwest Youth Entrepreneurship Service Fund Act 2016, Act number 6 of 2016, and provide for matters connected therewith.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Donga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat, on and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport.
for the love of the game.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
We are wrapping up our conversation now. We're going to catch up with the folks at Creative Development, and they're announcing the 3rd annual We Are Unmuted campaign, and they'll tell us more about that. We've got Ntokozo Langa joining us, Head of Operations and Programs at Creative Development. How are you doing, Ntokozo?
Well, how are you doing, Bridget?
I'm fabulous, thank you. Hey, this afternoon I'm having interesting gentlemen with non-binary surnames and ladies with the bass voices. I love it.
What's your lucky day? It's a good Monday for you.
I love it. Let's get some context as to who firstly is Creative Development.
All right. So Creative Development is an organization really that was birthed out of the lack of policies around climate change being reachable to people, and also really just telling authentic stories of Africans by Africans. So Creative Development really just creates that platforms for creatives to tell stories around climate change.
Mm-hmm. And the importance and the significance of us sort of telling these stories, because I think sometimes we remove ourselves from these conversations, but innately as people, we've always been connected to the environment around us.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I think the truth is that climate change is about human life, right? If this did not affect human beings, it would not necessarily be something that sort of impacts us. But as we stand right now, no one can deny the fact that there is change happening around us. When you sit down with your grandmother and you have a chat about what summer was when they were growing up, it's very different from what we're experiencing. But the layperson is experiencing very differently from all of the other people. And these are the stories that we're trying to tell. We're trying to get the buy-in of people to say, look, we have something going on. I think there's nothing really that can go forward without getting the buy-in of the average person, and them just truly understanding downright to your child in primary school or a kid in middle school in Tsakani or in Heartland, really. So that's just a baseline understanding that we're trying to get through.
Talk to me about the 3rd annual We Are Unmuted campaign and what this seeks to celebrate.
Yeah, so what the truth is here, and this is something that I really find exciting, right, is that I believe that one person can only tell a story so far, right, in a creative manner. And I think when we sit as South Africans, because creative development is essentially birthed from South Africa, and the idea is, how do we then include other people apart from South Africans, right? So we did a call out on creatives, really, and this is something that really needs to be understood, is also just how do we use creativity, right, to tell all forms of creativity, visual arts, music, dance, photography, and all. So what we have done is we've put out a call, right, to creative hubs around the continent, and with a specific section of 4 countries, which is Egypt, South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria, to say, tell us stories that you find important in your community, and include the community in telling these stories. So each hub will have an opportunity to create a workshop with their community, telling a story of whatever chosen aspect it may be. And essentially out of that, we're going to create a showcase, call it an exhibition, to say, look, this is what we have created, this is what we have seen. But by doing that, we reach out to different demographics, right? Because we know that the people that consume exhibitions are very different from the people from the said community. So it's just sort of trying to touch base on everyone and just make sure that policies are not really just understood by those that are learned, so to say, but also just understood by the average person and how that impacts them as well.
And tell me, Ntokozo, how did you go about selecting the 4 participating countries? You mentioned that the creative hubs are going to be hosted in Kenya, Egypt, and of course, South Africa, as well as Nigeria.
Yes. So on the call out really is, firstly, what is your idea? What story did you want to tell, or do you want to tell, rather? It had to be young people because the voice has to be edgy, you're right. But another big piece, it really had to be gender balanced, right? Because in telling the story, the voice of an average, in quotes, man is very different from the experiences of women in society. So it's also just making sure that all of the voices are heard. So it was the age, it was obviously the geographical space, not the age really, the gender. But one other big thing was that X factor in your story, or rather in your exhibition, how you aim to integrate community and just make sure that everyone has sort of an understanding at the end of the day. And also just the general understanding that this grant, which is $10,000, would be of use to you, bring an impact and help your sort of career trajectory, so to say.
Yeah. I love the fact that you've placed an emphasis as well on illuminating local solutions and innovation that's coming out of these regions, essentially coming out of the continent. I'm a believer that communities and people often know the solutions to their own problems.
I mean, absolutely. And oftentimes I usually make the example that, trying to be a solution finder is a very difficult thing, because you really just at the end of the day have to ask people what they need, right? Like, we're not going to go to a village and see kids walking bare feet and say they need shoes. Maybe kids don't want to wear shoes. There's a bigger need than that, right? So in this case is just the expansion of the voice of the community, like amplifying that. And with this grant, is not just them doing, is also a piece where we'll be bringing them to South Africa for a 4-day workshop, right? A workshop around how do you communicate a message, how do you manage funds, how do you tell a story. So we're going to get other creatives around the community, the continent, to be part of this, to help in sort of empowering them that the next project they do is way bigger than what we have planned already.
And by way of, I know that you've also partnered up with some folks on these hubs. Do you maybe want to touch on one of two and the significance in their role as a stakeholder?
Yeah, so I'll touch on a hub from Cairo by a group called Very Nile, and a photographer who's an individual. His name is Roger Anis. So essentially his story is centered around the Nile River, and he wants to resurrect what was called the Nile Parade, which in the olden days was sort of like the sacrificing of a young princess to stop the floods from happening. Right. So over time they used a mannequin instead of an actual person. But when technology happened and floods were able to be stopped, less focus was placed on the river, and people didn't care about it. And there started to be more littering and pollution of the river, essentially, which started affecting the livelihood of the community that fishes on that river. So one of his showcases and workshop is actually to bring to life, focus on the Nile River again, but instead of focusing on, so to say, the princess that was sacrificed, he's now focusing on how we are sacrificing our own livelihood by not taking care of our environment. That is really, in a nutshell, what his showcase is about, but it will include young kids from the community who are going to create plays, who will paint, and also, have a little choir to actually amplify all of this. But because he's an actual photographer, throughout this whole process, a documentary will actually be created.
Sounds fascinating. I know I said just maybe touch on one, but I'm also curious to know about the Nigeria Hub.
So the Nigeria Hub is really just focusing on a small town just outside of Lagos, which essentially has what they call cleaning women. So they are, like in South Africa it's a bit better because the ladies are clean, have a formal structure, but in Nigeria is not necessarily like that. So they play a huge role in essence, because during the rainy seasons, their efforts of cleaning out the city really is what helps, all, the drainage system not to be clogged up, essentially. So what they're going to do is they're going to create a 10-part short stories on radio.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
yes, short stories on radio about these women, but also they're going to pick certain women and make murals of them across the city and actually tell their stories through that. So their main objective is really highlighting the person and what they're doing, and in essence, really just telling the story of selfless people who care about their community.
Wonderful stuff. And as we wrap it up, so this is the 3rd annual, and I wonder, with each year, do you sort of go into collaboration with a different territory on the continent, or have you kept it consistent to these 4, also just by way of being able to double back and gauge on the impact on some of these campaigns and conversation?
And truly, this is a beautiful question, Bridget. So as part of our workshopping piece is the aspect of monitoring and evaluation, but we really are sort of drilling down to each hub to say, how do you measure impact? How do you see if this is really good work, and how do you expand it? So to directly answer your question, with each year we actually expand the number of countries that we make the call out to. So previously it was Malawi, it was South Africa and Nigeria. And Kenya. So this year we've sort of broadened it out. But one of the countries that we really are trying to get into are countries like Senegal.
Yeah.
And it would be really interesting because there's a bit of a language barrier in that. But we really find that, at the end of the day, we really just want to be able to touch each part of Africa. So the dream is to grow as much as possible and really tell these stories in a way that is more impactful. And I think impact is reach at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It was such a pleasure. And I think as my parting shot to you, I think it's often assumed that there's a language barrier in Senegal because it's Francophone. But having visited Dakar and then spread out throughout the countryside, they very, very much embrace English as well. So they're very fluent in English. So, and they're quite comfortable conversing in English if French or Wolof is a barrier. So don't worry about it. Go forth into Senegal and conquer. Thank you so much for the time this afternoon. That was, of course, Untogozo Langa, Head of Operations and Programs at Creative Development. That's it from our end. Inshallah, God willing, we do it tomorrow.
Every day our children are exposed to relentless marketing of unhealthy foods where they live, learn and play. This aggressive marketing of unhealthy foods to children can shape their eating habits and food preferences for the rest of their lives. I'm your host, Crystal Audison. Is big food stalking our children? Watch Chew on This on healer.org.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, Noma Upumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Stay tuned to SAfm coming up.
The top stories this hour. The Joburg Mayor's funds promise is welcomed and rescue operations continue in Sudan. A very good afternoon. The City of Joburg's NMC for Public Safety has welcomed Mayor Dadamorero's promise to unlock funds that will allow the city to provide transitional accommodation. 4 people were killed and 3 others injured in a fire at a hijacked building in Jeppes Town in the CBD at the weekend. 200 others were displaced. MMC Mgcine Tswaku explains their plan.
I'm happy that the mayor said that he's going to unlock the money from national. It's transitional accommodation, bro. I can take these people today. I can do that. There's nothing very dangerous here. I can get in with a few guys. Say, people, let's go. But the problem, the law does not permit us to take people and put them on the streets. We must put them somewhere. Let the national unlock the funding so that we are able to do the transitional accommodation for Abantu.